All right, y'all, what's going on, man? This is Chris Williams from the Grow Your Side Business podcast, where I help ambitious employees learn how to grow a profitable side business. Now, just so you know, the Side Hustle Secrets course is out right now. In fact, the Side Hustle Secrets course is the sponsor of today's exclusive interview. For those of you in the Side Business Builders group, listen, you already know every single week, like we're dropping like seriously fire interviews and conversations. Today is no exception. The gentleman to my left is what I have to say is one of the people that I've gotten to know over the last year. And a lot of times when you meet people, you meet folks and you go, okay, I see what they're doing, but is that who the person actually is, right? And then when you get a chance to actually meet them and you go, okay, not only is that actually the person, but there's way more depth. It's like you meet the iceberg and then you look below and you're like, whoa, there's a lot going on here.
Right.
So, man, we're going to go ahead and get started. Without further ado, I want to introduce to some and present to others the man, the myth, the legend of what we call option snipers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Wasi Akin, man.
I appreciate you.
Brother,
I appreciate you. Thank you
I'm
so much.
glad you stopped in, man.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Listen, my community are people who are serious about building their side business this year.
Yeah.
Actually, in fact, just so you know, in January, we dropped an episode every single day on our audio experience.
Yeah.
We called it the 31 Reasons Why You Need to Grow a Profitable Side Business.
Yes.
And so people have been enjoying that. And one of the things that we wanted to do this year was we said, okay, if people got a story and they really built something serious, we've got to be able to tell it. Well, y'all, this guy reached out and said, most people don't understand the journey of how we even created Option Snipers.
Yes.
And I want to tell it here. So for those of you in the Facebook group, y'all are winning because y'all get to see this first way before it shows up on YouTube and all of that. But
Absolutely.
Wasi, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and then, I really want to dive into this because I'm going to be taking notes, but I've got like a load of questions.
Yes.
We're going to try to get them all in while we're here.
Yes.
But give everybody a little bit of understanding of who you are, where you're from, and we're going to get into like options and all of that, but we're going to start with your background.
Yeah, let's start with that. So my name is Wasi Akin. I'm originally from the DC area. I am of Nigerian descent, so both of my parents grew up in Nigeria.
Gotcha. They
migrated here to America in Rhode Island, and they had me and my siblings in the Maryland area, right?
Okay.
So I grew up in Maryland. I attended Howard University. I graduated from Howard.
Shouts out to Howard.
HU, you know.
Come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? So so I have that background. And then shortly after graduating from college, I got accepted as a customer engineer at Microsoft Corporation.
Whoa.
Right? So what happened was I moved from the DC area at around, I'm going to say 22, 23, and actually came here to Charlotte. I was actually relocated here to Charlotte. They gave me options of Seattle, Dallas, North Dakota, and Charlotte.
Okay, all right.
So they gave us those four options, and I had my four listed out. I had Charlotte at the top, Dallas,
Gotcha.
Seattle, and then obviously North Dakota at the bottom because no slight to North Dakota, but
we love y'all.
Yeah,
it's just cold up there, man.
Yeah. And me and cold, we don't mix. Okay, so I had to go as further down south as possible, but I still wanted to be pretty close to the DC area in order to drive back home. So that's why I had Dallas listed as second. I chose Charlotte as first, and I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? I love the area, so that's a little bit about me.
Man, so listen, I want to start prior to building this business because most people don't know that you started this actually as a side business. So talk a little bit about like what you did at Microsoft and what was the linchpin moment that you were like, I want to do something else, but maybe you didn't even know it was options trading. You just were like, there's something else going on. What was happening in that space?
Sure thing. So, I started at Microsoft, and I came out making high five figures, close to six figures, early on. And, I think the journey as far as, what I was able to do with the income that I had, I did that, you know what I'm saying? So, pretty early on, I bought a house, you know what I'm saying? I was maybe 25 when I purchased my home. But what I started seeing was that each year that went by, it felt like I wasn't growing financially. However, I was actually doing a lot more at work, from when I initially started, with Microsoft. So in my head, I was thinking, my expenses are piling up a little bit more because now I have more of a responsibility, but my paycheck wasn't necessarily reflecting my ability to do that, right? Because what happens usually in a 9 to 5 role is that there's a ceiling potentially on how much you're potentially able to make, especially if you're not in a commission based situation, right? So what I started to see was, hey, I'm doing great work here. I'm spending a lot of years here. I'm giving my energy, my time, all of my dreams. I'm pushing to the side because, after all, my identity at that point in time was tied to where I worked.
Okay.
So, for what it's worth, I suppressed a lot of my goals and dreams in order to be here and do this thing. But I found quickly that, you know, even though I was spending more time here, at that job, the idea at the time for me to continue to grow my income, it seemed as though it was just something I wasn't going to be able to do at that spot.
Gotcha. So you mentioned, your Nigerian descent, and one of the things that we talked about was both of your parents were entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Now, talk to me about like the reason to go from Nigeria to come here, but then what did they do as entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So my dad came around, I want to say 20 years old. My mom came maybe around when she was 19. They both met in Rhode Island. They went to school in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Both went to a 4-year school. They actually met in school.
Nice.
So so for what it's worth, in Nigeria we don't really have a culture of 9 to 5 as far as like corporate is concerned. So I mean, obviously, there's more of that now with American-based companies coming from America and just countries around the world. Really.
Yeah, 100%.
Coming in, kind of like infiltrating different countries, and one of which is Nigeria. But we're talking about the early '60s, '70s. Most people that were profitable were entrepreneurs. So my parents already came with the idea and the mindset that in order for them to make a living here in America, eventually they would have to become entrepreneurs and stay in the entrepreneurial space.
Gotcha.
For the most part, that's why people ended up coming here for education, right? So usually when people are migrating from Nigeria to come to America, it's essentially for a better way of living.
Gotcha.
Right? And so my dad quickly came into real estate. So he was a real estate agent, and he was also a real estate developer. So pretty early on, he had some apartment units that he was a landlord of, and actually renting them out to people. My mom, she studied childhood education or child care, really, child education, I guess I would say.
Nice.
So she ended up having or creating a daycare in the Maryland area shortly after moving from the Rhode Island area.
Gotcha.
So
what was entrepreneurship a conversation at home? Were were they always gone? What was the environment like being a young kid watching both of your parents create their own income and find ways to make a living?
So for what it's worth, I would say we learned about, my siblings and I, we learned about entrepreneurship through them, like subconsciously, if that makes sense. They never really instilled in us, hey, go earn a business.
Right.
What we were instilled was, hey, go to school, get some good grades, get a good job. Most Nigerians that are potentially watching this, or even Africans in general, most of us have the idea that, hey, it's either you become a lawyer, a doctor, or engineer, right? Those are like the professions usually that our Nigerian parents or even Africans just in general would essentially champion, so that we can kind of go that route. Obviously, those are the jobs here in America that obviously pay less. I mean, pay more, pay most, right? But also there's prestige around those roles as
100%.
well, right? So anything creative wasn't really celebrated. So becoming an artist, a musician, for the most part, were not things that Nigerian parents in general would champion, I guess you could say, as far as starting out a career. So The whole idea was, hey, get a good job, get good grades in school,
Mm-hmm.
go to college, get good grades in college. After you graduate from college, get a good job, because the whole idea was stability.
Yeah.
Right. Stability and security.
Yeah.
That stage or that phase, back, I would say like the early '90s to the late 2000s, I would say, up
Mm-hmm.
until like maybe 2010 or so, was really the idea of how to earn a living financially in America.
Hey, I know you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to stop you really quickly and just ask you, did you know about the triangle of value that you provide in your corporate job today? Yes, profession, practices, and principles. And all of those your company is leveraging. Why aren't you? I mean, actually building out your own side business. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I built something called Side Hustle Secrets. The Side Hustle Secrets is your opportunity to be able to take the knowledge that you have in your head right now and actually learn how to build you a profitable side business. There's a ton of value of things that you're going to be able to get in here, but there's one thing that I wanted to be able to show you, because I know that for many of you, you are like me. One day you woke up and realized, you know what, this job ain't enough. In fact, you realize that if something ever happened, I am going to be in trouble. And I learned a little too late. I had to go through 2 corporate layoffs, going from almost $80,000 a year down to $9.13 working retail, because I never got it. Even though I had the title, I thought my job was secure. I never secured my own financial future. So I'm giving you the shot. Grab the link below, go to growyoursidebusiness.com right now, jump into the Side Hustle Secrets course. Let me show you how to take what's in your head and go build something with it. Back to the episode.
You know, you get this opportunity to go to Howard University.
Yeah.
What was the thing that you noticed while you were at Howard that would even spark this creativity if all you grew up in was stability?
Yeah.
Like, you need to create something that's stable. You're not here to be creative.
Yeah.
You here to become a doctor, or you know what I mean? Like, so what was it Howard? Was there something there that you realized there was more than, giving yourself permission to think further? What was going on at Howard that really was beneficial to you?
So for the most part, what I got from Howard for the most part is the networking element. I actually didn't really explore too much entrepreneurially within, like, while I was at Howard.
Gotcha.
However, in hindsight, I have quite a few friends that dove into entrepreneurship while at Howard and now have profitable businesses. One of my friends, his name is Corey Arvinger. We actually went to school together. He now owns a business. I don't know if you've heard of Support Black Colleges. I don't know if you heard of that, but he has the clothing line with that.
Shout out to that is an amazing company.
Yeah. So I actually went to school with him. We had class together. Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah, and it's funny because years later, we actually met up at one of Neo's conferences, Nehemiah Davis, and saw him. I was like, yo, it's crazy how we're both here. Obviously, we went to school to learn a skill set, which was, and obviously, in American higher education, there's not really I guess you could say, curriculum designed to create entrepreneurs.
That's right. Yeah,
it's more so to create employees and create workers. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So, being in a position where you have that upbringing, I guess from higher education and college, trying to change your mindset when you realize that there's something greater was definitely a challenge. But I think for the most part, what happened at Howard is that the connection that I was able to make in school and just learning from people doing different things on the side. I actually have one of my good friends, Wale. He actually his name is Wale Aloyin. He's a video producer in the DMV area.
The man is a sensation.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I actually watched him start and grow his video production business while we were at Howard University.
Wow.
So, there were times where he would come to class and say, hey, I actually have a video shoot tomorrow with Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so I'm seeing all this like firsthand, like, wow, okay, so I'm here for 4 years to learn a skill set that eventually, hopefully, I can be picked up by some sort of big IT firm that can give me this money, while seeing, my peers kind of starting something while in school, but growing it you know, throughout school, and now seeing, you know, how big these things can happen.
You know, what I find interesting about when you do take on that position, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily have the parental support.
Yeah.
Because to your point, you know, 60s and 70s babies is all about stability.
Yeah. And security.
And so then there's this rise that I would say really started in the 80s, but it took off with the internet of these hyper individualized creatives who found ways to generate revenue, but that wasn't what we all grew up on.
Exactly.
Talk to me about the conversations you had that might have been difficult even with your parents about the direction in which Wasi wanted to really go.
Yeah.
Not the one that, you know, they were like, well, he's going to be fine because he's going to get a job. But when you started having this thought in your mind, like, yeah, but that's not all I want to do.
Yeah.
What were those conversations like?
So those conversations weren't too difficult because, again, remember, they were entrepreneurs themselves.
Yes,
the whole idea really is like, hey, just make sure the main thing is the main thing, and then you can figure it out, you know, along the way, right? I think for our community though, we needed representation, right? And so the idea really, as far as becoming entrepreneurs, is that, you know, we needed to see a figure in our community that can show us what entrepreneurship looked like. Obviously, for most of us, that looked like, as far as, you know, Black men or just Black, you know, Black America in general. For most of us, it was, you know, hey, rappers, right? Musicians per se.
Yep.
You know, and basketball players, right?
Right, exactly.
So obviously those were skill sets that you didn't have to go to college for.
Right.
But these were people that we were seeing making money. You know what I'm saying? So I think what ended up happening is that, you know, later on down the line, we started seeing individuals that were not rappers, that were not ball players, that were making tons of money, just being a regular person.
That's right.
However, just solving different equations. So for me, the what changed for me was understanding and knowing that you can actually get paid to solve other people's solutions. And when I learned that, that's when I decided to say, I got to figure out what I can do to get, you know, my piece of the pie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, because for what it's worth, I had the understanding that 9 to 5 was not my end goal. Obviously, I see it as, or at the time, definitely I saw it as essentially a means, you know, to be able to leverage and take into doing something else.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, you know, I think the key thing with that though is that most people don't really have the understanding or even the thought process to think outside of what's already in front of them. You know, so, you know, I think that's something that we should definitely discuss today.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely want to dive into that. So I want to understand, because I am not a guy. I'll just be completely honest with you. Stocks, trading, puts, calls, holds, all of that. It is the most, I would say for me, foreign. And for a lot of people, things that are unknown, we tend to not want to go deal with. We will literally spend our entire lives never touching the unknown because we're so comfortable with familiar. Now, it's not like you grew up in a house that was trading stocks.
No, not at all.
It's not like, you know, 30 of your friends while you were at Howard were all up at night watching and understanding companies. It's not like y'all were doing that. What was the thing, what happened that made you look at the stock world in such a fascination that you were like, I gotta learn more about this thing? What happened?
Okay, that's a very easy question to answer. Okay, and it was as simple as this. I had a friend that literally made over $3 million overnight trading stock options.
$3 million?
$3 million trading stock options.
I think I would get interested too.
Okay, my ears perked up. So here's the thing. This, you know, we're talking about the peak of the pandemic. At this point in time, I was only trading stocks, right? So it's like, you know, you're just buying and selling companies, right? You're buying, selling shares of companies, right? So my experience up to that point in 2015 was just that. Now, obviously there was a huge rift in the stock market in 2020, which obviously presented a lot of opportunity. Here's the deal. A lot of people are moved by information in the media that they don't even understand.
Okay.
Right? So when you hear about a stock market crash, for the most part, all you potentially think about, if you don't have the understanding or much information about stocks, is that you're losing your money.
Right.
Right? But here's the deal with options trading. With options trading, you can actually make more money as stocks crash. Okay? Most of the CEOs and the founders of some of the bigger companies that you guys are familiar with, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon, most of these CEOs and founders were actually making ridiculous amounts, actually record-setting numbers, right? Most of these individuals actually had their net worth double or triple through that process of stocks going down, betting that stocks are going to be going down.
All right, so we're gonna do an educational class while we're here too, because
that,
there's a lot I want to understand. So you said something that I want some clarity on.
Sure.
You said 2020. So you started trading when? What year did you start trading?
I started trading stocks in 2015.
Okay.
I started trading stock options, right? When we're talking about buying calls and puts. That was around 2020.
Okay.
So early 2020.
So you said 2020 presented opportunity even though things were falling apart.
Yes.
You also said people don't understand what's being told to them in the media.
Yeah.
And they look at it as fear, and there's actually opportunity.
Yeah.
First, let's just start with a good high-level understanding of why it's an opportunity.
Okay.
What is it that the option person sees that the media or media doesn't tell, and the rest of us who are just out here who don't focus on that world don't understand?
Right. So one of the key principles is when you're talking about just the media in general, right? Usually they are looking to invoke fear, right? So if I say, hey, what's the reason why you're not in the stock market? You're gonna say because stocks are
bad.
Or what's the R word people use?
I would say stocks are. You said the R word?
Trading stocks is
risky.
Risky.
Yeah,
okay?
100%.
I didn't tell you that word.
Right.
You knew that word on your own. Now, how did you come up with that word? Now you got to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's programming that we're talking about.
Gotcha.
Somebody had to tell you that trading stocks is risky for you to say that.
Good point.
I predicted that within you. We never talked about that.
Right.
Most people that are watching this right now, they probably can. When I said it starts with the R, they already called that
out. That's
100%.
100%.
Okay?
Okay. Gotcha.
And I didn't talk to them. I didn't talk to you about this.
Right, exactly.
That's programming.
Yeah.
Do you see where I'm going with
Understood.
that?
Okay.
Now, when you have that element to it, what then happens is that we are then taught to stay away from things that are risky, right? Instead of learning about what the risk is and then siding on where the reward is, right? Because guess what? It's when you drive a vehicle, that's risky.
That is risky.
That is risky. Driving a motorized vehicle is risky. However, when you know about the risk, and what do? You still drive your vehicle.
I still drive. Yep.
Why do you still drive your vehicle?
Because I want to get to wherever I'm trying to go to.
You're trying to get okay. How did you learn how to drive your vehicle?
By taking the risk and actually having to go through driver's ed and actually
driver's what?
Driver's ed.
What is the ed part?
Education.
Yeah. Anything that is risky, all you need is the education to be able to make calculated risk in order for your reward to be greater.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, you might want to join our community and leverage the other great content and the people that you can be surrounded by. GrowYourSideBusiness.com is the sponsor of this episode, along with the great community of people who are side business builders. Let me give you a little understanding of exactly what you're going to get. When you go to GrowYourSideBusiness.com, one of the cool things is you're going to be able to be a part of the pros. That's right. We are pros. We're helping you build better faster. You'll be able to see our video that really shares with you our mission and how we operate. But you'll also see the difference between us and the way we work, the way we help community, and the way other folks do. But more importantly, you're going to be able to never work out of fear again. Join our community, helping people in their business. And the training and content is crazy. Why? Because I believe in helping people take massive action. Massive action stands for those who execute above the average. I believe that's you, right? I know you execute above the average. That's why you're here. But more importantly, we have the Side Hustle Secrets course. Listen, you can grab this course self-serve And guess what? You can get online and learn the secrets how to take what's in your head and be able to make something with it that is profitable. More importantly, join our communities, okay? Our communities are here for you, and I really want you to be able to join it. Now, listen, why did I tell you all that? Because at growyoursidebusiness.com is where you need to be. Don't just hear this interview. Don't just listen to this particular piece of content. What I'd like for you to do is really take massive action. Go to growyoursidebusiness.com and let's get in together and let's help you build that profitable side business. Oh, get back to the show.
So when I hear calculated risk,
Okay.
I think of, or calculated risk to me sounds like either you know something I don't,
Yeah,
and that's the only reason why you win,
yeah,
or there's some version of something insider that only a few people understand.
right.
Give me your understanding of what calculated risk look like in the world of options, but I would also say why a calculated risk in general in life from your perspective, especially because you do options.
Yeah.
And because it is almost a real-time decision that you typically are making, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
Help me understand what calculated risk really means in your world.
So calculated risk is as simple as this. Once you have the education as far as what the stock market can offer you and how you can essentially partner with the market, we call it partnering with the market, right? A lot of people, what they try to do is they try to beat the stock market. Let me tell you, that's the quickest way you'll be losing your money is if you try to beat the stock market. What you want to do is you want to partner with the stock market because guess what? Every day there are hedge funds that are making billions of dollars in the stock market. Now, if there's still billions of dollars being made because these people are being hired by, private equity funds and different things like that to be able to make money in the market. If you can't make a specific number, then you're fired, right? Like
100%.
You're not going to be able to make your money. So essentially, there are people that are literally making money every single day in the stock market. Why can't that be you? Well, the reason why it can't is because you have potentially a skewed mindset on what rewards you would be given through the stock market based on your methodology. If you're thinking you want to beat the market, you're not going to beat it. You can never beat the stock market. You have to partner with the market. And what that means is what we do at Option Snipers is we use what's called the momentum strategy. We see where the momentum is heading within the market, and we essentially partner with that momentum so that we can make our gains, whichever direction the market is heading. It can either go up, down, or sideways.
Interesting.
And we'll still make money.
So in my head, I imagine like at your house, you got these 19 different screens up and you watching like all of this information and somehow you able to read all of these languages and make a proper decision. We'll get into that in a moment, but let's, for our audience, just so that we can have a good understanding.
Yeah, let's do that.
Give me the simplistic understanding of options trading and why it can be a actual lucrative thing that somebody could even do on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually encourage everybody to do options trading on the side. Most people don't even know that most politicians are actually options traders.
Really?
Okay? Nancy Pelosi is an options trader. Okay? Here's the deal. A lot of people don't understand that when you talk about investing into different companies, there's other people on the back end of that also investing, right? So when you have different policies that drop, most of those policies have companies attached to them, right?
Yeah, fair.
So,
yep,
yeah,
that's right.
Right. So like, for instance, if there's a new policy that says, hey, we need electric motor vehicles for our police department. Guess who makes money there? Any electric vehicle
That's
companies.
right. Yep.
Now they're gonna have a specific electric vehicle company that inherits that policy's project, and then that company essentially would obviously start to.
And that's the reason why we have lobbyists and people from those companies who come and fight for those particular. Okay, makes sense.
Right. So the most to go back to your question, how we like to explain options is, in real estate you have what's called an earners money deposit, right? Right? Your EMD, right?
Yep.
And so that allows you to do what? To have the ability to have a building under contract or whatever the case may be. And, you essentially have control over that asset.
For a small period of time.
For a small period of time.
Right.
Now, what you do with that asset is what you either buy it or sell it, right?
Yep.
So I could give you the rights to that. But what do you have to do? You have to pay me.
I gotta pay you.
If my earners money's deposit is $2,000, and you see that there's a potential for you to make money off of that value, that asset, I'm then going to charge you what? A premium.
That's right.
Right?
So you might charge me $4.
I might charge you $4. What ends up happening? I spent $2,000 to have access of, let's say, a $30,000 house, right? And then I sell that to you so that you can control that, right? For $4,000. So what do? I walk away with $2,000 profit, right? While I didn't have to spend $300,000 to get that profit.
Understood.
I only had to spend that $2,000, which is a premium.
Right.
So in options trading, you have access or control or rights, right, to 100 shares of whatever the equity is for a small premium.
Okay.
Right. So when I decide if I'm buying those rights, let's say I'm buying calls, right, that means that I'm betting that this specific equity is going to continue to increase in value. Right?
So a call is the company going positive.
So when you call somebody, you call up.
Okay. Gotcha.
Going up, right?
Okay.
When you put something, you put it down. Okay.
Are y'all getting this? Because this is like up. Real education right here.
So when you're placing a call, you're saying that the stock is going to go up.
Okay.
When you're placing a put, you're betting that the stock is going down. Okay. That's the simplest idea for you to understand the difference between the two.
Got it. Okay. So, all right. So there's the basic understanding of options trading.
Yeah.
But I've seen some people who have like a lot of different theories around it.
Yeah.
I've seen so many different methodologies around options trading it'll make your head spin. I've seen the most extreme kind where people are like, hey, you got to stay up all night and you got to watch. And I've even seen where now, I've seen new people come on board where they're talking about they don't trade it for the U.S. They trade the overseas market.
Yeah, those are different stuff. Yeah.
Help us understand a couple of the more, I guess I would say maybe one or two of the popular ways people do options trading.
Yeah.
And what's one of the things that maybe even you've noticed that maybe has not gotten a lot of traction but could really be lucrative from an options perspective?
So with what we do in our community at Option Snipers, and we're actually a university at this point. Right?
Come on, man.
We're actually Option Snipers University. Right?
Did y'all just hear that?
So
it's crazy.
So within our university, we have a methodology where we actually don't sit up late at night and study the whole stock market.
Okay,
we don't do that.
Gotcha. All right.
We don't go like
I'm not doing that.
Stock. Exactly. I'm not doing it either. Okay. There's easier ways to make money, and we just talked about this upstairs. It's like it's all just a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't know any better, then you're not going to do any better.
100%.
Okay.
That's right.
So most people, what they think about options trading or even the stock market in general is what you said earlier. 19 screens up.
Yeah.
Right. And you're looking at one stock, another stock, another stock.
Too many movies, man. That's just blame the movies.
Right. And these movies are doing the exact same thing, perpetuating fear.
Right.
Because how many people are going to sit up and stand up 19 different monitors?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not necessary to be successful as an options trader.
Gotcha.
So what we do in our community, there's are you familiar with the S&P 500?
Yes, I am. But for our audience, help everybody understand.
The S&P 500 is a conglomerate of the top 500 companies in America. Now, a company can either be put inside the 500 or taken out. Right? Some companies, if they are underperforming and there's a hot company that's overperforming, usually there's a process in which they are invited into the S&P 500, but then inadvertently there's also a company that's also
that falls
taken out.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, instead of what we see people do, and a lot of the newcomers that come into our university, they say, "Hey, this is how I trade," and then we see their watch list of 30 different companies. Right? We completely scrap that and say that is not a winning formula. Why? Because you can never make money being distracted in 30 different ways.
Ooh, okay.
Okay?
All right.
The same thing with business. You can't, you can own 30 businesses, but how many of those businesses are actually going to be successful with your full attention?
Yeah, with your full attention. 100%. Fair. That's totally fair.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So you have to use that same thought process and most principles of one industry is a microcosm of another.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you use that idea and you put that into options trading or just the stock market in general, then you'll be able to make better decisions. Now, so what we do is we trade the S&P 500. Okay. We're essentially saying instead of looking throughout the entire market, if we based our decision making off of one equity and have direction on that, we can essentially pinpoint specific human behavior, because all human behavior is predictable, right? Okay. So the stock market is contingent on human behavior. Okay. Right. So if you can predict human behavior, you're going to be making a lot of money in the stock market. Okay. Now, a simple principle usually is that if there's a stock that is creating new highs, for instance, right? Usually there's a profit-taking process. Now, with that profit-taking process, what does that mean? Usually people are selling that stock at that point. And so there's momentum to the downside.
The stock is being sold because there's somewhere it's up. So people want to go ahead and grab the money before it falls back down. So they just go ahead and sell.
We talked about the used car market last night.
Right.
What happened with the used car market? It went up, right?
It went crazy.
Now, if you had a used car just about a year ago, obviously, a year ago to date this video, in 2021.
2022.
2022, yeah. I guess you could say, okay? So 2022, obviously the used car market was going crazy. Okay. Now, if you bought your car, obviously prior to the used car market, you got it at what? A low price.
That's right.
So you bought low. Okay. Now, the usual idea with investments is that you buy low and you sell high. What do people usually do during situations where a industry or a market is burning hot? What do they decide to do? They decide to sell.
They sell it all. Yeah.
Because why? That burning market, at some point in time is going to come back down.
That's right.
So your idea at that point in time is to sell while it's high, right? So if you have a vehicle, say a Yukon, okay, and you bought that item or you bought that asset back in, let's say, 2019, you might decide to say, hey, somebody's offering me a ton of money to sell it. So what ends up happening? You end up selling it, you make your profit, right? So that's essentially the same idea of what happens in the stock market, right? There's a buying and selling process. It's essentially an auction where you would buy an asset, which is an equity, right, at a low price, and then sell it when it gets high.
But one of the things I understand about options, and correct me if I'm wrong, the difference that people like about options trading instead of just traditional stocks is because I don't have to own the stock.
Correct.
I'm basically making a educated decision about what might happen at a particular period of time.
Correct.
So if that's correct, you said human behavior is predictable.
Yes.
Talk to me about why human behavior has something to do with the underlying way stocks actually move.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we just talked a little bit about that, right? The human element is to say, hey, this is going up. I'm going to sell right here, right? So, when you're able to see different opportunities in the stock market, there's different setups and different strategies that you can be able to take advantage of based on where a stock is currently located.
Okay.
Right? So, for instance, if historically there's a stock that hits a specific price level, every single time it hits that price level, buyers decide not to let it go too low past a specific mark, right? So as far as human behavior is concerned, anytime it touches that price level, you can see that it never goes below that level. Okay. So what do you decide to do? Once it hits that level, what do you decide? You may decide to buy calls at that point in time.
Because you're predicting the probability of it going up.
Going up because the historical data, the human data, is showing you that anytime it reached that specific price, there was an interaction right after that, which would take it to the upside, right?
This sounds stressful, Wasi.
Okay.
This sounds like this, and the reason why I'm saying it sounds stressful is because you would need to be really paying attention to what is happening today, possibly, right? So, for example, we are in this world today. There's the potential of this crazy downslide, right? So you need to be paying attention to that. But then you also just made an important point that I guess I wouldn't have thought about. There's also the historical context to what has happened.
Right.
There's happening today, but then there's what has happened.
Yeah.
Is the predictability based on the historical data where you hedge most of your bets in options trading?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's how it can be made not stressful, right? This is how it can be made not stressful. Specifically because the idea of options trading is not that you have to spend hours and hours in front of the computer to make money. Okay. Some of my biggest days are usually 15 to 30 minutes in the market. Okay. Now here's what happens. If I'm seeing a specific situation that's occurring where I could take advantage of a low risk and high reward scenario,
Okay.
if I put more capital down, then my reward is greater while only having to have been right for 15 to 30 minutes.
Wait a minute. So you have strategies.
Yes.
And you have ways to be able to look at what's going on in a moment and be able to actually create revenue on a specific moment in time.
Yes. That's where it's not stressful, because here's the deal. When you shrink down your decision-making time, right, that allows you not to have stress, right?
Wow.
So there's two things. When you shrink your decision-making and you also shrink your capital investment.
Okay.
Right? The issue usually with investing is that people think that they need like tons of money to be able to make more money.
I was going to go there, right? So help me.
Now here's the deal. With options trading, you only have I talk about options trading like this. You're being paid to be right. Okay? You're being paid to be right. So if I'm right for 15 minutes, I only had to be right for 15 minutes.
That's true.
I could buy something
That's true.
at the 1 minute mark and sell it at the 15-minute mark and be done with my day.
That's true.
Okay.
All right.
I've had days where, and let's not even talk about myself. Let's talk about my students in our university. Okay. We had a student that literally learned our strategies after 3 weeks and was able to earn $2,200 in the stock market within an hour after only 3 weeks of learning through our university curriculum.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The funny thing was his previous day high was the day before, which was $1,000. The very next day, he had no idea that his confidence would be compounded enough to be able to make $2,200 the very next day, live in person here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Really?
Really? Absolutely.
All right. Okay. All right. So we got an education on the basics and understanding and the foundation of calls and puts and how options work. And I at least feel a little better about what I didn't know originally before this conversation. I had a conversation the other day when we talked about doing this episode because I went live.
Yeah.
And I was talking about the fact that, I realized that too many of us don't necessarily honor the job.
Yeah.
And so while, yes, you guys hear me all the time talk about, growing your side business, one of the things that I also understand is that you can leverage your day job in such a way that it can be even more rewarding. Because for me, at least, when I built the side business, I found I had new lens and new life on my actual day job. Because there were things that I didn't realize that I could learn from, that I could take, that I could do, ways that my side business helped me show up even better at work.
Yeah.
Talk to me about when you started building your, because from my understanding, you just told me this.
Yeah.
Option Snipers started as a side business.
Yes, Option Snipers started as a side business.
This is wild.
Yeah.
So
most businesses start as a side business though, right?
I would say so. I would think so.
But I guess really the idea is that when you see something become such a big deal, it's hard to imagine or remember that it used to actually really just be a small thing. Right? Because most of our bigger companies, Microsoft, Google, these were side businesses.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Bill Gates was in school.
He sure was.
While he was making Microsoft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, when we talk about like building a side business, why do you see it as like a good thing for people to do? But then what did you do as you got more into this world? Like you said, you met this dude and he did like $3 million and you're like, okay, I'm interested because I'm trying to figure out how.
Yeah.
But then there's the reality of who you are, your own limiting beliefs, your own limits between the 9 to 5 and, all your other responsibilities.
Yeah.
How did you find a way to navigate your current busy reality and then also building a side business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I obviously, like I said, I started my IT career at Microsoft, right? So, you know, for the most part, what I learned in my role, I was actually an individual contributor, which was more or less a consultant. Okay, so actually, within Microsoft, I was really honing my own business, if you think about it, right? So I was managing my own schedule, I was managing my own travel, right? I was traveling across the country, representing Microsoft. Okay, just a few years ago, this said Microsoft. Okay, just a few years ago, and
Gotcha.
so you know that's what I was doing. I was going across the country. I think I've traveled to over 40 states. So I'm more than grateful for the opportunity that Microsoft provided. However, throughout my process, what I did was I was gaining new skill sets.
Yeah, 100%.
At the time, you know, for the most part, it was a customer facing role. So that meant that I had to be in front of people, talking to people with confidence about what I was delivering, right? So I was doing workshops, trainings, different things like that.
Yeah.
Now, in order to teach these people how to do these things, I had to learn these things on my own. For the most part, there were like trainings and things like that you can do, you know, electronically, but for the most part, it was literally just learned by fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you had to kind of, you know, drink from the water hose, essentially, you know, learning different products and skill sets along the way that allowed you to become confident while on the road. Because imagine, I'm wearing Microsoft branding at that time, right? So I'm looking at, or people are looking at me like I'm Microsoft, because I'm the one representing Microsoft at that point in time, right? So when they see me, it's not just, hey, do you know about Microsoft Excel? It's like everything that they offer. Obviously,
everything.
It's a whole product.
Even if you had nothing to do with that department or area, you are Microsoft.
Correct. Now, for me, obviously, knowing that my responsibility was only maybe a couple of different products, I had to understand that if I wanted to have a strong brand, I needed to learn about everything.
Yeah. 100%.
Everything, every single thing. So for the most part, that alone was so big as far as starting and growing a side business.
Interesting.
Okay? Because when you become an entrepreneur, when you decide to grow a side business, you quickly realize that you have to be all things to everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? At least initially.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, when you grow your business, you have to, in order to scale it, you have to do things like delegate and things like that, right? But, you know, at least to start in the beginning process, the biggest thing you want to do is be able to learn about so many different things, because at the end of the day, if you do need to hire somebody for a specific thing, you need to know what to tell them to do.
That's 100%.
Right? If you have if you're looking to edit a video, you're going to need to know what you want edited, how you want it to look, so that you can give that so you can delegate those tasks to another individual.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So for the most part, my process within corporate America was that I had to learn different skills along the way to become successful, to have my brand being seen. And when I say my brand, my personal brand, because although I wasn't corporate America, there's a name attached to me that wasn't the brand itself, the company itself, right? Yeah. So when there's work that needs to be done, or for whatever intense purposes, things like bonuses or pay raises or, you know, promotions, right? There's a brand attached to that. And I had to make sure that I you know, presented myself as best as possible to be able to attain those things.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I want to ask you a question that I realize a lot of times can be difficult for people in their employment chapter of their career.
Yeah.
How did your conversations and relationships change with your coworkers as you were building the side business?
That's a great question. So, you know, as I was growing Option Snipers with my partners and I quickly started seeing that I was more in control of the money that I was making. And I think for the most part, when we have the idea or the identity based on, you know, the company that you work for, you have the understanding that you're basically at the mercy of whoever your superior is at that point in time, right? So you have your manager or you know, whatever type of boss that you have, right? Like essentially their perception of you usually is what allows you to be either successful or not successful.
100%.
Right? So
agreed.
what I quickly saw was that my relationship with my coworkers was, it changed in such a way where they saw that initially, there was a lot of frustration that I had pertaining to my growth in the company because there were some unfavorable situations that I was in. For instance, I worked in corporate America for 7 years, and I had 6 different managers. Now, if you're looking for continuity of you went from point A to point B, you would want somebody that sees that process
right,
to actually honor that process and say, wow, you went from literally knowing nothing to being a lead for a product, right? Now, if along the way there's one person or another that is now I guess charged with being your manager, they don't have the context of when I started as a fresh college hire.
That's right.
Right? So I don't then get the benefit of the doubt of someone who just started. I don't get that benefit of the doubt.
That's right.
I get the analysis of somebody who has been here
right.
for this period of time and has accomplished X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right? So, for the most part, that was the main differences for me when I started growing this side business, was to say, I'm more control of my earning potential. I had the understanding that the more time and effort that I put into my side business, I would then start to reap more of the reward.
Yeah.
Which is what I was not seeing at work potentially, right? And like I said, specifically because I was not in a commission-based role, I was in a salary role, which meant that this was how much I could make, and I couldn't go.
Yeah. No matter how many more hours.
No matter how many more hours I worked, I couldn't go to that next level. So that's great news for somebody that is lazy. That's terrible news for a hard worker.
That's right.
That's terrible news for a hard worker.
Good point. Good point. Yeah,
because if I'm a lazy person, I'm okay with whatever you're giving.
That's right.
Because 100%. I know I'm always underperforming.
That's right.
But if you're an overperformer, if you're a hard worker, if you, even aside from being a hard worker, if you have an intelligent mind to be able to work smarter, that is even more of an issue for you.
Yeah.
Because you could potentially be working at a higher level while maybe not even spending as much time, right? But still only getting whatever that time allots.
So being able to be an employee and you found efficiency in your workflow, but because maybe other teammates haven't, it looks as if you're not working, right?
Yeah.
Because, you did it in 3 hours and they spent the whole 8.
Right.
That's a very interesting concept because I would say, I don't think that many managers or many corporations take that into consideration.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
That, yes, we might be doing the same job in the same role. I just found a way to make your workflow work better for me so it doesn't take me all day to get X amount of things done.
Right.
I can get those things done in shorter time, which, truthfully speaking, does save the company money.
It saves them money.
And it doesn't make, I don't have to sit in meetings all day and all those other things, but I would definitely say from that perspective, and I've been that person where it's like, I don't need to be on all day long to be considered I was working. I remember funny conversations even with my mother back in the day. She's like, are you actually at work? I'm like, yeah. She's like, but how?
Yeah.
Like, you're not in a room. You're not in a meeting. I'm like, well, that's not what work is anymore. And then it dawned on me, she sees it differently.
Yeah.
Because they had to be there, right? Like all day.
Yeah.
Right? And things have changed so much. That's a very interesting perspective that I wonder how many companies struggle with. Well, then how do I know what your value is, right? Because you weren't, So even though you performed on everything, you did all of the stuff.
Right.
And I think, unfortunately, that mindset hasn't changed yet. So you could be a high-performing, less involved person, but still be treated as average.
Yes. Which is exactly what happened.
Got you.
Right.
Okay. So, wow. That's a very interesting perspective. Okay. So you talked about the co-working relationship. I love asking people this who built the side business.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you got paid on your side business?
Yes.
Do you remember how much money that was?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I remember my number, and I never forget it. I even took a picture of it. I need to put it on a wall somewhere because it was. I always tell people I went to work very differently that day.
Yeah.
Because it was a good amount of. How much did you make the first time you did it?
So the first our first paycheck at that time as a business.
Yeah.
We made $30,000 in an hour.
All right, y'all have a great day. This conversation is over. You made $30,000 in an hour.
Yeah. So looking back, what I didn't realize was that we were actually conducting a webinar. So what happened was we had members in our community that had the understanding of what we were doing. We were helping people make, upwards of $1,000, $2,000 a day. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was a free community at that point. But we then decided to go paid so that we could allocate more of our time and resources to be able to help people.
Yep.
Right. So we gathered everybody in our community and we gave a promotional offer of $75 a month to stay in our community.
Okay.
Or if you wanted to prepay for the whole year, we gave 2 months off. So that would equal, I think, $750 for the year.
Okay. How many people did you have in this community by this time?
At this time, we had upwards of, I want to say, 500 active members.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? This is why it's so important to do great work in a side business. Because word travels fast.
Yeah.
Word travels very fast. You need to be in a situation where when you're doing great work, the word is going to travel for you. Wow. Right? So there was a situation where, there were disgruntled people that were coming to our community after hearing about what we were doing. They were potentially a part of other communities that were not providing the level of support that we were. Because we, at that time, which we're still doing, we actually were doing hand-holding within the stock market. So we're not just saying, hey, let's teach you how to do it and you're on your own. We literally are on the calls live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9:30 till about 10:30, 11 o'clock, right? Eastern.
Wow.
Right? So, we're doing a hand-holding where we're teaching you what to see in the stock market, but then we're then giving live analysis, on what we're seeing, right? We're definitely not giving investment advice because we're an educational platform.
100%.
At that point. So
don't forget that.
Yes. Everything is educational purposes. So we're an educational platform. We're a university. We do not provide investment advice. Right? What we say is this is where you should potentially be able to do X, and this is where you should potentially be able to do Y.
Interesting.
Right? Based on what you're seeing. So so that was that process.
Man. So, hey, if you're enjoying this episode, you might want to join our community and leverage the other great content and the people that you can be surrounded by. GrowYourSideBusiness.com is the sponsor of this episode, along with the great community of people who are side business builders. Let me give you a little understanding of exactly what you're going to get. When you go to GrowYourSideBusiness.com, one of the cool things is you're going to be able to be a part of the pros. That's right. We are pros. We're helping you build better faster. You'll be able to see our video that really shares with you our mission and how we operate. But you'll also see the difference between us and the way we work, the way we help community, and the way other folks do. But more importantly, you're going to be able to never work out of fear again. Join our community, helping people in their business. And the training and content is crazy. Why? Because I believe in helping people take massive action. Massive action stands for those who execute above the average. I believe that's you, right? I know you execute above the average. That's why you're here. But more importantly, we have the Side Hustle Secrets course. Listen, you can grab this course, self-serve, and guess what? You can get online and learn the secrets of how to take what's in your head and be able to make something with it that is profitable. More importantly, join our communities, okay? Our communities are here for you, and I really want you to be able to join it. Now, listen, why did I tell you all that? Because at GrowYourSideBusiness.com is where you need to be. Don't just hear this interview. Don't just listen to this particular piece of content. What I'd like for you to do is really take massive action. Go to GrowYourSideBusiness.com and let's get in together and let's help you build that profitable side business. Oh, get back to the show. Okay, you start Option Snipers 2015?
We started Option Snipers 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
All right. That's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
So you start Option Snipers, and tell us about your partners and like what, because we had a conversation about it, but I really think it's interesting how it seems like you were very thoughtful about the people that you chose.
Yeah.
Talk about the partners that you chose. Why did you choose them? And, kind of what that first year looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. So One of the best decisions you can make as a person that's looking to start a side business is to have partnerships. Guess what? We both have our own selfish ambitions.
That's right, 100%.
But if our selfish ambitions align with each other, you take your selfish ambition, I take mine, we combine them together, and we can create a lot of different things. Why? Because you have your incentive.
That's right.
I have my incentive.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, there's a compound effect at that point that allows you to have great success.
Yeah.
Okay? So I initially saw that very early on. I knew that there were weaknesses I had that I needed assistance on.
What were they?
Right? So some of my weaknesses at that time was internet marketing.
Okay.
I knew how to. I'm a tech guy, obviously, right? Corporate America. That's what I did. I have my bachelor's in information systems from Howard. I have my master's in information systems from University of Maryland.
Okay.
My master's and MBA.
Okay.
Right. So I'm all tech. I'm all on the keyboard, on the computer, things like that. But as far as being in front of the camera and speaking in such a way that can captivate an audience or a following to be able to grab their attention and bring them in, that was a huge deficiency of mine.
Interesting.
Right? Because think about it. If you're behind the computer, you're not really
you don't do a lot of interaction.
People. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not a lot of interaction.
Most IT people don't even really have personality. And we have the understanding that, in order to be a successful marketer, you have to have personality.
Yeah.
So 100%. I didn't have that at the time, at least. I didn't have that. That was something that I had to learn. Right. So one of the first people that I knew had a lot of personality and had that internet marketing background was my brother-in-law, who's still my partner today, Josh. Right. Josh Castro, Josh Alufa.
Don't worry. When you see him, you'll know exactly what he's talking about. That dude's charismatic energy is infectious.
Yes,
absolutely. Shout out to Josh.
Shout out to Josh. Yeah. So that's my brother-in-law. He's actually my immediate sister's husband. Right. So he was the first person. He was one of the first people I hit. And for what it's worth, he was actually one of the first people to teach me about just trading stocks in general.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But at that point, he hadn't learned too much about options. He and I were mostly doing penny stocks, right? So that's how we started. It was
come on, Warren Buffett. I'm cool with it.
it was himself and myself, and we had just a small community of people that were on Zoom every day, watching the market literally from 9 o'clock to 4 p.m.
Wow.
When the market closed. Okay, so we were literally on Zoom for 8 hours. This is the peak of the pandemic, so everybody was inside. Right?
That's true.
Everybody was working remotely if they did have a job. So, we were all on Zoom together. And so then what ended up happening was I got a phone call, which at that time I didn't know was accidental, from one of my partners who I mentioned earlier, Wale. Right? So Wale calls me, but it was on accident. Right? So he quickly hangs up. So I text him back like, hey, did you mean to call me? He was like, man, it was a butt dial. But then we start just communicating. Like, we hadn't spoken in a while. We graduated together at Howard.
Got you.
Right? So we graduated together. And so we graduated in 2014. This is 2020. We talk periodically, maybe like every 2 years, just kind of catching up on each other. We were pretty close in college, but we had obviously, what's the saying? Like, what's the saying when you don't see somebody for a while? It's like out of sight, out of mind.
Out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind.
100%.
That was kind of what it was. But there were periods of time when we were like kind of running to each other, right? So, he hits me up and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking into real estate, but I'm also doing penny stocks. And he was like, well, I'm also looking at penny stocks, but I'm learning more about options trading right now. And I was like, options trading, like, what's that? And so we start talking, and then he's like, I have this guy that he's doing some really great things. He's teaching, people. And that was one of my other partners. His name is Deji. We call him Uncle Zoom. To this day, I don't know why we call him Uncle Zoom. I actually don't know why we call him Uncle Zoom. But his name is Deji. So it was the four of us. And then I had one of my best friends. His name is Shaquille Douglas. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. He went to high school with another friend. His name is Mike Washington, and Mike was a former police officer at that point in time. Okay. He had been trading stocks, but he dabbled into options. Okay. He already created like a PDF of like a course curriculum. So when I talked with him, I was like, man, we need to figure out how we can create this and productize it, and or create a service around this.
Yeah.
Right? So I saw Deji is he was more of the guru, right, as far as options trading at the time. Wale, he builds websites, video production, all those things, all that type of stuff, right? Mike was more so like the foundation from a legal standpoint. Obviously, you have his background in being he was actually a robbery detective. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, he was a robbery detective in the Maryland area, and then, like I said, my brother-in-law Josh, he was the internet marketer, and I was kind of like the jack of all trades. So
Gotcha.
I dabbled into internet marketing.
Right.
I learned much more about the options trading. I can do the video editing, build websites and stuff like that. And then obviously, the legal work was, something I could do as well. So I was kind of like everybody else's number two.
Yeah.
In that
Interesting.
sense. But still kind of putting together the brand, the Option Snipers logo, the name.
So that was you.
Yeah, the name, the logo, like all that stuff. Yeah, those are things that I presented.
Clearly, he understood something.
Yeah.
And worked at it long enough.
Yes.
To get really good at it.
Yeah.
Right now, is he the one that you saw that had the $3 million day?
No. He's not the one.
Okay.
No, it was one of our other. It was one of my other partners. I can't really name him.
Listen, we good. But here's the thing I want to bring up about that.
Yeah.
So Wale's good at what he does.
Yeah.
Joshua's good at what he does.
Yeah,
Mike is good at what he does. Deji's good at what he does.
Yeah.
At what point did you see that there's a real lucrative opportunity if we all can agree? Because I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most people who are watching this today, who have started a side business, don't want to work with other people because they find it hard. And when you talk about that many people, that many selfish ambitions, that many egos, that many directions in life, that's hard to manage so that we can make some money, right? Like, because in the beginning, it's not like everybody's doing, great.
Yeah.
You guys had a somewhat of a unique story, but what does it take to manage that many people, especially male egos?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would want to start that by saying, first of all, as far as like, managing something on your own, right? You have to have your own vision for what you want to do at the end of the day, right? So, what I usually tell people is like, when you do figure out what that vision is, and we can go into that as far as like how you can identify what your side business is going to be. We could talk about that a little bit later, but as far as once you've already identified that thing, you have to then decide to say, I have to keep this to myself. I have to hold this to myself, at least for a period of time. Now, the reason I say that is because what I've seen a lot as far as side businesses and how they die is by releasing the information or your vision too quickly or to the wrong person.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Because guess what? I have a brilliant idea and I come and I tell you about it. And I haven't even worked on it whatsoever.
Right.
What do? If you're a supportive friend potentially, that's a great idea. What happens to my heart? I get the feeling that I've already accomplished that idea. What does that then do? That then makes me not even be active in doing that.
Interesting.
Because I've already gotten my reward.
Interesting.
Usually people want to have the idea that they are successful in something that they had the idea of doing.
Yeah.
However, what happens is when you start telling people about this idea that you have and you feel real warm and fuzzy inside, you've already received your reward at that point.
Interesting.
So you never want to be in a position where you have an idea and the first thing you do is you tell somebody about it. That's not how you go about it. You sit down, write down the vision and make it plain.
Okay.
Right? Habakkuk 2:2.
That's right.
When you do that and then you start working towards that goal, eventually what you'll start to see is that the people that you need to work with will actually start to attract to you. Okay? So what happens is if you're working on something and it's the work that you do and it's all you're about at that point in time. Usually when you start having conversations with people and you're networking, you're then deciding to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. You might not even divulge into everything you're doing, but once you start hearing about what they do, then you start thinking about your vision that you've already made plain and start thinking like, hey, I have something I'm kind of working on right now. I think you would be a good person for this piece of it
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about
Good
that.
point.
Right? And that's one way to do it. Another way is through serving. You can grow your side business simply by serving.
Tell me more about that.
Tell you more about that. This is exactly how you do it. When you identify an individual who's potentially already somewhere that you want to be, and you see that they have a need that you are an expert at, if you come and approach them with some sort of offer and say, hey, I can do X for you. And especially after you've done your research, right?
Yeah.
I've already done my research. This is what you're missing. This is what I can do to be able to meet that need. Let's say you're a videographer and you're looking at potentially a online coach or a different business, and you look at their social media profile and their content is trash.
With a capital T.
With a capital T. Maybe a capital RASNH as well.
Right.
You as a video content producer can look at that situation and say, okay, I could either decide to start my own situation, or because this person has already earned so much value and respect in their community and in their industry and their space, I can leverage what they've already built, put myself right where I need to be as far as being an impact to that person, and learn while I'm making money.
Interesting.
Right? So if you are a video, if you are somebody that produces video and you see that there's somebody that's successful at already doing that, you can simply just leverage their brand, learn while you're earning. And then eventually when you find yourself in a situation where you could say, I can do this on my own now, then you start building your own situation. That's how you can start learning different skill sets along the way without having to, do things like, I guess you could say like learning by fire, where you're probably, potentially some situations you might pay more for something that you shouldn't have just because you didn't know about it.
Right.
Well, if you put yourself underneath somebody, you can learn all that without having to sacrifice learning experiences.
Interesting. Right? Wow. So let's then take this a layer deeper. Earlier you talked about identifying a side business.
Yes.
And I would say that even on my live the other day, people struggled with the idea of what could I do?
Yeah.
One of the things that I teach in our community is about the fact that you don't have to be like something different.
Yeah.
What you've got to be able to understand is that you already have a particular skill set that you've been using at your day job every day. To your point, you just have a cap on how much you can earn.
Exactly.
If you put that out in the marketplace,
you
can make some great money because there are people out there who want to know what you don't know.
Right.
You shared a really cool story about somebody yesterday when we talked.
Yeah.
I want you to share that story as well, but talk to us about like how you identify creating a side business, because there's a lot of people who at the beginning stages who aren't growing one like you did to massive amounts, but just the identifying it. What's a way that you see people could do this?
The easiest way you can identify, and go ahead and write this down. All right, guys, this is the easiest way you can grow a side business. The easiest way you could do that is simply going through your text messages, your call log, and start identifying questions that people have sent you that are frequent questions, right? That they send you asking for your advice or your expertise in, okay? Because we all have a superpower, right? My superpower, one of my superpowers I've identified is actually being able to identify other business opportunities, right? So that's one of my superpowers, right? Some people have a superpower of being able to earn friends, right? Some people have a superpower of, knowing more about a specific industry. Okay. So for instance, if every single time you have a friend telling you, I need my braids done, right? And you have so many people coming up to you like, look, I had somebody that was, was doing my hair before, but I only want you to do my hair now. Okay, if everybody's asking you to do their hair, you need to create a hair business.
Right.
If everybody's asking you to do your nails, do their nails for them, then you need to create a nail business. Okay, so there's a lot of things you're doing potentially already for free right now. That people are willing across the world to pay you for. Not only that, people are also willing for you to teach them how to do. Okay, I know some very successful musicians that don't even have hit records, but are able to sell their coaching on their specific instrument.
Yeah.
And people are learning from that person and then creating businesses as a result of that.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that I always say that's missing in the marketplace, it's not a lack of ideas, of talent, or, you know, what could be done. Because most people would just say, oh, well, some people really literally walk around thinking it's got to be something new for me to create a business. And I'm like, there's nothing new under the sun.
No.
But what I realized is the majority of people are missing out on millions of dollars because they never understood how powerful the skill set is of teaching.
Yes.
They've never understood, like, listen, if you could teach what you do, there is gobs of money.
Yeah.
If you just understood that it's just as powerful. And so I always use the example of, you know, if you work in marketing at a big corporation, you know, you have access to resources that literally churn billions of dollars in profit.
Correct.
But if you've been there for an extended period of time, you are the reason for those billions of dollars in profit.
So why not you?
Why not you? And so I realized, like, even with myself, it was like, wait a second. When I finally wrote down my own mission statement for my side business and just my life in general, I knew my goal was to always make the light come on for people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Don't have to be nothing deep. If I can help you get it, you'll walk out of here and go do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realized my most effective way of doing that was to being able to teach and put something together that could help.
Right.
Talk about why when you do this Option Snipers and this community that you built.
Yeah.
Now we got the university rolling.
Yeah.
Why was teaching an important component for the leaders of the company, yourself and Josh and everybody else?
So, you know, this is how our side business started. We were getting so many people messaging us, like we would post our profits on Instagram. People were literally messaging us like out the wazoo. How do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? So we actually started to think about ways in which we can communicate what we're learning, record it, and then essentially ship it out. Because what happened was people were booking calls with us like, hey, can you sit down with me for an hour, 2 hours so I can learn this thing? What happened for us was that we were like, there's only so many hours in our day
100%.
to be able to teach this stuff. So we decided to productize what we were learning, create a video around it, and just kind of ship it out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the best product. You know what I'm saying? Like the best thing you can do is create a product around what you know and sell it to people because they're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a value that people deem to be worth more than whatever the price tag is, then you could sell anything.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, the pushback you might get with that statement, sir, is, well, what I do is not sexy. It's boring.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
I've been in plumbing. I've been in plumbing all of my life.
An accountant is not boring. Listen, I know accountants doing crazy things as tax preparers, okay? Accounting is not a boring role at all. I know some accountants that are literally churning $100K during tax season, $100K a month. Okay? Crazy numbers, right? That's just an example. But, you know, as far as things being boring or not being boring, the whole idea of having a side business is to earn income. I don't care if it's boring or not. I think a lot of people need to understand that. Guess what? The most powerful people and the most richest people in the world are selling the most boring things you can imagine.
That's true.
The Walton family, what do? They own what? Walmart.
Yeah.
How exciting are you when you walk into Walmart?
Right. Not excited at all.
Okay. We have in Africa we have a man named Dangote.
Okay.
Dangote sells cement.
He's one of the billionaires, right?
He's one of the richest,
he's one of the richest
black
that's
people
right.
in
That's right.
the whole world.
That's right.
He sells cement. Now, obviously,
Interesting.
after that foundation, there's a lot of different other things.
Yeah, he was able to do, but
but that's the foundation.
He started with cement.
Cement. Sugar.
Really?
We're talking about just basic things, right? So
interesting.
Okay, some people, most people don't even know. People that own laundromats, if you have a couple different laundromats,
Listen, that is a boring business, as people will call it. I have been looking into that for the last several months to invest in.
You don't need
You don't need a lot for that. You really
own
don't.
a laundromat. You're making a killing.
I know some people.
Normal laundry. And here's the thing: what people don't understand is that the basic needs, the basic necessities of life, everybody's gonna need it.
They're never gonna go
Everybody
away.
is always going to need a laundromat.
Yep. Everybody.
There's nothing you can do outside. Nothing you can do about it. You can't do anything outside of it.
I realized that. Shout out to Cody Sanchez and a few other people. She's a young lady.
She's the one that taught me about that.
27 businesses, 40 million a year.
She's the one that taught me about
off of stuff that people don't even think about. Plumbing companies, pool companies. She did big in laundromats and other stuff. But I realized how many things, like, so there's not a lot. There's no advantages to being poor.
Mm-hmm.
But the one advantage of being poor is you understand basic necessities.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. You just understand, like, whatever you get on top of poor is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because you really understand basic necessities. Yeah. And I remember hearing about that and going, she's doing basic. It's not.
Yeah.
And I'm like.
Vending machines.
It's the basic stuff.
ATMs.
People literally are making a killing off of ATM machines.
I have an ATM right up the street.
Are you serious?
Yeah, at a piece of Havana, pretty close to the Charlotte airport. If you go to a piece of Havana, go ahead and take out whatever money you need to take out in that ATM.
Oh,
You're doing your boy a service. All right? I appreciate you.
That is...
Yes.
It's fascinating that you bring this up.
Listen, and you know what's so crazy? What people don't understand is that usually the most boring businesses are the most stress-free. Wow. Do you know how stress-free it is for me to own that ATM and to make money off that ATM? I don't have no customers. I don't have no complaints.
Good point.
Okay? I don't have to sit there. I don't need a customer service number. I don't need none of that.
Interesting.
All I'm doing is literally just loading that machine up with money. The customers come. They put their money in. I earn and
the bank is giving you the money to load it up with.
Straight to me, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't like the most boring businesses are the ones that you want.
Yeah.
You want a boring business.
Yeah.
You don't want the headache of potential other businesses that could, for whatever reason, take a turn for the worse.
I'll give you a perfect example. Speaking of ATMs, there's been the craze of the crypto, ATMs.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them pop up everywhere. And every time I pass by one of those, I think somebody figured that out and just beat everybody else to the punch.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to show up everywhere. I interviewed a gentleman several years ago on the show. Mm-hmm. And he built his business off of the most boring thing that you walk by every day in an airport and don't think about. So most people are walking around needing to charge their phone when they're in the airport. So this is before they had all the tables with it. He actually created vending machines with portable chargers that are already charged. You pay for it, you'd get it. And because he was in so many airports, you could go to another one and drop it off.
Wow.
This dude made, I'm talking about incredible money off of something that you're going to walk around with your phone. You need to charge it. Who ain't in an airport? You ever seen a day where you walk in the airport and nothing's happening? Or something happening every day?
Yeah.
And so it's those types of thinking that's like,
he solved the problem. He saw
it. Like, and he was like, oh yeah, everybody's walking around talking about their phone is dead and there ain't enough outlets in here. Well, let me just provide a service.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed him, it was fascinating to his approach because most people would keep complaining about the problem.
Yeah. And not actually go
and try to go solve it. Yeah. I just thought it was such an amazing approach to your point. So, okay, you $30,000, your very first, like, that's crazy.
First month,
What are you guys doing in revenue a year?
We do a little over $1 million in revenue a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with $1 million in revenue a year, is that just options or is that including the university and the subscription model?
That's everything.
Okay. Yeah. So you do a little over $1 million a year. Now, at some point, when you're building a business, I would imagine you guys have to look at scaling. Mm-hmm. You guys have to look at hiring more people on the team to do certain tasks. You got to look at your partnerships. There's like other things that come because just because you make a revenue of $1 million doesn't mean that's what everybody's bringing home. There's so many other things that got to get taken care of. As you mentioned, and this idea of a university is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Why a university, and what is the ultimate goal here?
Right. So we started just thinking about how we can provide more impact just in general.
Okay.
We understood that the idea of a community alone would not be as grandiose, I guess you could say.
Okay.
As far as, being able to impact more people, right? Like a community for us didn't sound big enough to provide impact.
Okay.
Right. So we decided to say that because our mission statement is to close the financial intellectual gap of our people in America. Right.
Okay.
For all people in America, via the American dream, utilizing the stock market. Right. So in order to do that, we have the fundamental idea that there is more of a there's more of prestige as far as information when you cultivate the idea of a university, right? And for what it's worth, as a community, initially we were more so, helping people online, virtually, right? But now that we've added a live component to our teaching, that allowed us to now kind of branch out, have, different chapters across the country and eventually around the world. Wow. Where we have different deans and professors that are essentially propagating our message across the world.
How hard is it to put together a university?
It's extremely difficult because you have to have the right people, right? You have to have the right people, especially the internal group. One thing I've learned about business in general is that usually there's tough decisions that you're going to have to make regarding personnel and staffing. However, usually if you have the right idea as far as where you're trying to go, usually those situations turn out to be like launch pads to get to the next level.
Okay.
What we saw was that usually when there was an individual who was potentially underperforming or not a good fit as far as our company culture, we had to make the hard decision of letting that person go.
Okay.
But then when we saw that happen, either a replacement for that particular person or just the culture in general, people started to get a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And, you start to see your culture really take form as far as where it's actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, scaling and creating a university is extremely difficult because you not only have to delegate, but you also now have to give them the responsibility of knowing that, hey, our brand is on the line, and we have to essentially relinquish that power per se to say, initially it's just the internal group, the initial group, and we could all trust each other, but now we have to trust individuals that we've obviously given the trust to, but there's a risk element at that point, right? Because we're essentially saying, hey, there's a level of influence that we're going to allow you to have so that you can essentially allow us to get our message out across the world.
That's a huge endeavor, and I would also say culture is going to be a very interesting story here.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait for the book to come out.
Yeah.
So I can read it. All right. So, man, we've covered a lot of ground. I've got a last couple of questions.
Sure.
Being of Nigerian descent, one thing I know that from people that I've met are very, very proud and truly believe in tradition and culture.
Yeah.
Is there a Nigerian proverb that you live by that has been kind of a North Star for you in life that you could share?
I don't know I don't know the translation, but in English, it's what I use is.
Well, you could say it in Nigerian and then translate it for yourself.
Okay, well, I actually don't know it in
Gotcha.
The language is Yoruba, but I actually don't know it in the Yoruba
Gotcha.
language. But in English, it's one hand washes the other, both hands wash the face. Right?
Explain that.
So, one hand is going to wash the other, meaning as far as, what you can do it for yourself. But if I take your hand and I use my hand, we can wash the face together. It's essentially to say there's more that we can accomplish being together, right? So, for me, I have a really deep desire to partner with people who are also elite and excellent at what they do.
Interesting.
Right?
Wow.
Like I have my video producer here.
Yeah.
Destiny, a part of Angry Bird Production.
Yeah.
And he's literally the best video producer that I could find. So I want him around me all the time.
That's right.
Right? So
the dude is amazing, by the way. If you ain't seen his IG or any other stuff, don't worry. You'll find out. It's all him.
He's an amazing video producer, and so I love being around people that are excellent at what they do because they have the understanding that there's usually a level that you have to get to, right? As far as like the next level, right? There's more. I guess you could say there's more. There's more of a need of going above and beyond, right? Anybody who's elite at what they do, they know that there's a level that you can go to, but then there's another level that you can still reach if you just do enough research and spend enough time in honing in your craft. Yeah. Right. So I'm very big on partnership. My partner Josh, he is one of the best internet marketers I know personally that can look at a situation and identify ways in which you can articulate a message that can sell to the masses. Yeah. Right. We talk a lot about mouth to millions.
100%.
Our mentor Myron Golden, and that's one thing. For what it's worth, Myron is obviously the best at what he does. But
100%.
But I always say Josh is almost right there. You know what I'm saying? Granted, there's a huge gap in experience, but from my perspective, when we come to those meetings and we sit down and learn, like. He's taking everything with the, just as is. And I'm able to see him take ideas that were given in our mentorship meetings and literally put them into practice. Yeah. It's amazing to see. So again, partnership is a big thing. And many of you guys watching this potentially thinking, well, I don't really know how to identify a partner, or I don't know if I would be good with, with partnerships. Here's the deal. You have to seek it anyway, because what you're going to realize, even in relationship, right, with people, is the fact that you have to explore it. Like, just because there's people that you can't trust,
right?
That doesn't mean that you just don't trust anybody.
That's true. 100%.
Or you don't at least go to seek it.
That's right. 100%.
Because how can you say that you're a married man if you're deciding not to date women only because you have a trust?
Right. I don't have trust. Right. Exactly.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah. That's
right. Like
that's
you have to go after it anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be made well for it. Now, here's the great part about it. Any situation you go through in life is always going to be a learning lesson. Because even if you have a bad partner, that partner is going to teach you how to identify other bad partners so that you don't make the same mistake again. I always say my favorite part about making my own mistakes is knowing that I'm the sole owner of the ability to not do that mistake again.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
Right?
That'll be on the clip, so make sure we had that.
That's my favorite part about making mistakes is that, like, when you learn that it was a mistake, you analyze the mistake, you examine the mistake, and you say, okay, this was where I went wrong, this is where I went wrong, this is where I went wrong. Yeah. Now, you are the only person that can change your course. Yeah. I like that accountability. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I love it.
I love the accountability of knowing that I have the ownership to be able to change my own situation. A lot of us don't like that, though. We have to become people that do that, though. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's where you have your success, right? Yeah. Because a lot of us potentially are in situations where we have a victim mindset. Like, woe is me. This was the cards I was dealt, right?
I always say people are living from a moment instead of towards the next one. Right. So they're 20 years in and they still talking about the person that hurt them back then. And it's like, that was 20 years ago. Like, when
well, I mean, at the end of the day, what happened to a specific individual might not be their fault, but the healing is always your own responsibility.
Always your own responsibility.
It's always your own responsibility.
I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't really look at a situation and just fall down about it. Like you got at some point in time, you're going to have to get up and decide, you know, I want better out of whatever the situation is or whatever is going on in my life.
You know, as you mentioned that, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, we always talk about in our community taking serious massive action. My definition of massive action is those who execute above the average.
Mm-hmm.
Those are people who literally take massive action.
Yeah.
You clearly, from 2016 to today, have taken. I always say you compressed the amount of time it would have taken you to make this money in a lifetime.
Yeah.
You compressed it down to a short amount of time.
Right.
What is driving you now? Because a lot of times when you first start something, the drive is the potential of a thing.
Right.
Then you finally do it.
Yeah.
And it could do a little better, and but you guys literally, like, you guys have a real, like, this is 5 years from now, Option Snipers is the TV commercial that we're watching, right? It's like the thing.
Yeah.
What is the driving force now for Wasi?
So the driving force for me is about legacy. Okay. I have 2 sons. I love them dearly. They're 3 and 2, right? And so for me, it's all about legacy. I've decided to say that, you know, as far as my life's work, it's gonna have to mean more than just how much money I made. It's gonna be about how many lives I actually was able to impact.
Okay.
Right? Because we don't have Martin Luther King Day because he made $1 million a month.
Right.
Right?
Good point.
No, think about it.
I like that.
Right?
Wow.
We don't celebrate these people because of how much money they made.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, you know, a lot of our more prominent figures in society nowadays, from a financial standpoint, they've done a lot of great, you know, in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, the money precedes them, but for what it's worth, the impact that they're able to bring is what allows them to be remembered.
They're leveraging the money to make the impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, from my vantage point, I'm looking at my life and saying, okay, well, you know, what are people going to say about me but when I leave here, right? And how many people's lives would be impacted by what I was able to do, or you know, my ability to kind of jump out in the water and figure things out so I can come back and you know, and help more people. Right. So that's what my driving force is today. And for what it's worth, I mean, that sounds all warm and fuzzy. It's still true, but that's warm and fuzzy. I love slaughtering competition. Right. So that's my other driving force. I just love being excellent at what I do.
Yeah.
I love the idea that I'm doing the best that I can do, knowing that whatever it is I'm doing is also the best that can even be done. If that makes sense.
Wow.
I'm very hyper competitive. You know, my partner Josh is that way as well. My brother, he's that way as well. And we're looking to essentially be able to infiltrate different systems and dismantle things, dismantle ideas, dismantle different thought processes that have been ailing us, you know, for such a long period of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, eventually we're looking to even get into Africa and teaching our counterparts how to trade, you know, so that they can also even change the whole dynamic of their currency.
Man, wow.
I'm talking about, you know, I'm talking about African countries, the value of their dollar or whatever their currency is, you know, rising. That's our grandiose idea of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish. Right. And so here's the deal though, right? Like one of my partners, I met with him the other day. We were smoking a cigar. I smoked a cigar for the first time. It was a pretty cool experience. You know, it's really interesting what happens when you elevate your network, right?
Yeah.
Because you start learning things that potentially are very unconventional.
Yeah.
But when these people are showing you what they're doing and why they do it, and then the conversation that you're having in the process, it starts to blow your mind. I have a story I actually want to share with you that one of my partners shared with me that is
really let's crazy. Get it. That's really why we here.
Yeah. So, you know, but you know, for what it's worth, like I said, like, you know, it's just about leveling up, right?
Yeah.
So I sat down with him, and you know, he told me, you know, that he had a meeting with a really prominent individual in the Knoxville, Tennessee area.
Okay.
I can't remember his name. I think it's I can't remember his name. But one of the more prominent families in the Knoxville area, they own a lot of real estate out there. This individual is 93 years old. And he just partnered in a deal with him to help him with
at
some
93.
At 93.
Still getting it.
And
I love
the way he got up so energized about a deal that they had completed at 93 years old. He's not doing it for money. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about a multi-billionaire at 93 getting excited about something. He's not excited about the money he's making.
That's right.
Because for what it's worth, calling a spade here at 93, it's probably impossible to be able to spend $5 billion before the time you transition.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So at that point in time, you're looking at your life's work. A lot of people have this this idea of, man, I just want to retire on a beach and just do that. Like, when you have the understanding that the work that you do is impacting lives, the last thing you want to do is retire on a beach.
Yeah.
Because what may be keeping this man alive is just the vigor that he has for the impact that he has. That's a very interesting
point. Good point. Yeah.
Because if he's on the beach, his body might not really want to do nothing to be able to stick around. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So and that's a different mindset. That's a different level of thinking, because what happens when you're working 9 to 5 for your whole life, not that it's a bad thing, because I say that 9 to 5 is your first business partner. One of my friends actually says the same thing. Storm Leroy. He has employed Millionaire. Right.
Shout out to Storm.
Shout out to Storm. That's my dude. That's my guy. Shout out to Marvin Mitchell. Shout out to Ash Cash. Path to Prosperity. Those are my guys.
Those guys are great.
Those guys are amazing. So that's something I believe in wholeheartedly. You can leverage your 9 to 5, right? But the problem is, when you own that identity, the idea that they give you is that you come to your 9 to 5, you put money towards a 401k. The 401k, they tell you, hey, you can't touch this money until you reach a certain age.
Because they're using it.
So what they're telling you, exactly, because they're using that money. They're using your money while you're working for them to afford their families to have wealth. While then you, at the end of 50 years working, whatever the case might be, you think you're going to have this huge lump sum of money to do what? Relax and sleep on the beach. Yeah. Right? That's where you get that mindset from. That's given to you. Most people don't even have the understanding that, look, if you have life's work that, like, I get calls from my students in our university. They say, hey, Wasi, you have completely transformed my family. I was once somebody that was a lethargic husband. My wife did not like my competitive fervor. She didn't like, but now she sees me up in the morning trading for about an hour, hour 30. She sees me paying attention close to detail. She says she's never seen me this focused before.
Present.
What does that do to their marriage?
That elevates dramatically.
I'm out here helping marriages, y'all.
That's good.
Okay.
Wow.
Just through the idea of teaching the skill set. Yeah. That means a lot more to me than the amount of money that I'm making. Right. So if I'm getting calls about how many people I'm helping through this university that I've been able to build with my partners, if I'm able to do this every day, like, what's gonna make me stop? If every moment I'm thinking about how I can impact somebody else's life, why would I want to stop that? Especially knowing that it makes me feel good about what I'm doing. It gives me more of a purpose as far as what I'm doing in life. It gives me more life to live.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Why would I want to then go on the beach and stop it?
Yeah.
Most of our millionaires and billionaires that we're seeing, they don't have aspirations of retiring.
No.
In fact, I know billionaires that literally have said that they tried retirement and it didn't work.
It didn't work. They didn't like it.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't like it at all.
Okay? So if you have a side business that eventually becomes your main income, because that's what happened for me. My side business became my main income, and then my salary 9 to 5 actually became my side business.
Sheesh.
Right? It actually became my side business. And when I realized that my side business, which was my 9 to 5 at that time, was actually getting in the way of my main income. That's when I realized that I needed to make a decision on how I needed to move forward. But I'm never one of those people that do the 9 to 5 shaming. You're never going to hear me say leave your 9 to 5.
That's right. That's right.
I'm never going to tell you that. What I would tell you is to leverage your 9 to 5 until it no longer works for you. And the same thing with business, right? You know, our mentor says all the time, like, your business needs to serve you. Like, if you're breaking your back, obviously there's some sort of sacrifice you're gonna have to
always
have as far as to start up a situation. But if we're talking about a continual back breaking through the process, you're gonna have to switch what you're doing. I have a friend, her name is Coach Kelly. She teaches people how to step away from coaching people one-on-one to group
coaching, man. That woman is a beast.
Now, if you're able to start learning group coaching, then that the business is serving you at that point in time, because you're no longer using every single hour of your day to serve only one person.
That's right.
You're then at that point in time serving everybody within that 1 hour. But what people don't really even understand, and we utilize this method in our options trading, in Option Snipers University as well. Obviously, we have a curriculum. We have, you know, students. Everybody fills the room. What ends up happening is that there are different skill sets, different levels of skill set as far as options trading within our university.
Okay.
What ends up happening is that there are people that ask specific questions based on their experience. Now, if you're a new person to options trading, your level of questioning is capped.
That's right.
Because you haven't yet experienced something that evokes a different question. So if we fill up a room of a different level of traders, right, of different leaders that are looking to, you know, create generational wealth, somebody that may potentially be a little bit more seasoned is going to ask a question that's going to unlock something in a newer leaders.
Great point.
Right?
That's the power of group coaching.
That's the power of that.
Yeah.
So that's why we implement that. But again, you know, that's the whole idea of what we're doing at Astonishing.
So you mentioned your boys.
Yeah.
And 10 years from now, your boys will probably, you know, on YouTube might not exist. We don't know. Things move so fast sometimes.
Yeah.
But at some point, your boys might see this interview. Take a look into that camera and tell them why you're doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, boys, Ire and Dami, right? I am doing what I'm doing for you guys, because I think that the best thing that can happen for young men is to show representation, right? So the reason as to why I'm doing this for them, for you guys, is specifically because when you have the representation to say, my dad did this, my dad was able to accomplish this, that actually gives them a platform from where they can then leap even higher, right? My sons are going to be way greater than I am, because what I've been able to learn, I'm going to be able to instill in them, right, in you guys, so that you guys can do even greater than I'm doing, right? The same way that my father did for me, right? So I'm teaching them, or I'm teaching you guys, I'm still talking to them, as I'm teaching you guys that impact is a lot more important than just influence in and of itself, right? The ability to impact people is going to be what allows you to earn a living and create wealth for our line, right? So that we can be people that have been seen as influential people that help people make money, or help people grow, or help people become a better version of themselves. Right? 100%. Sometimes it may not even be about money per se. Okay, so that's the main thing I want them to
100%
to know about this.
Good deal, man. Well, listen, man, this dude, I have notes, and there's some, we literally probably have to do a part 2, because there's some stuff that you said that I'm like, man, we can spend literally a couple hours on that. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely.
And talk to everybody like what you got coming up next.
Yeah, for sure. So you can follow me on Instagram, most social medias. In fact, maybe all social medias at Wasi.Akin. So that's WASI.AKIN. You can also follow Option Snipers at Option Snipers University on all platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We have tons of free content on YouTube. We actually have a event coming up.
Okay, what's the event?
So our event, we run a monthly event called the 5-Figure Trading Challenge.
Okay.
Now, during this event, it's a 5-day virtual event. It's only 1 hour a day, right? Over the course of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Only a 1 hour commitment where we are literally drilling in the ideas, the tactics, the strategies, the everything that you need to learn and know about options trading, specifically with the beginner in mind, right? A lot of people think, well, is this for me? I'm a beginner. I don't really know anything about the stock market. Here's the great news for you. That's literally the best position to be in, right? This is just in life in general.
Yeah.
It's best to say that you are a novice pertaining to everything. Why? Because then your mind begins to open up and actually retain information a lot easier. Because if you tell yourself from the door that you are an expert at something, then you're going to have a closed mindset as far as what you're learning.
Yeah.
So Options Snipers 5-Figure Trading Challenge, you can visit at www.5figure, and we'll probably have it in line here.
We'll put the link in the description below because, affiliates matter.
All that. So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We got you with the affiliate as well. 5figuretradingchallenge.com. We spend 1 hour. We're going over mindset. We have some analytics that we share as far as, what actually makes a profitable trader. We actually conduct surveys with all of our university students, and they give us it's a unanimous survey. We literally give out the details as far as what has allowed our students to be successful in options trading. Okay. So we run that monthly. So definitely check that out. Go on our website. And then what happens after that, we have a mentorship live meetup, right?
Okay.
So our new students in our university actually come to meet us live. We're actually touring the world at this point, right? So at the start of this meeting, or at the time of this recording right here, we are primarily in Charlotte, North Carolina, but before the end of the year, we would have been around the world.
Wow, man, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, man. Thank y'all for watching. This episode is sponsored by, you heard this man talking a lot about side businesses. Some of you've been trying to figure out, how do I take what's in my head and go make it profitable? Well, you just heard some dope ideas here. Well, guess what? Side Hustle Secrets course is our sponsor for today. You can get that course. The link will be in the description below. Make sure that you start taking massive action and saying, listen, I'm going to stop missing out on the profits that are already sitting in my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop wasting time and thinking, that's for somebody else. No, it is for you. It's for you and your family. So make sure you take advantage of that. And listen, man, first of all, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Number one, for showing up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of opportunities on this road of life where we can just get off.
Yeah.
And quit.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you didn't quit.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful that you decided to make a decision and that you stick with your decisions. It's it's a beautiful thing to see. So with that being said, y'all, for those of you in my group, man, y'all got all of this. For those of you on Instagram, or if you're watching this on YouTube, do me a favor. Instead of just saying, oh, what a great interview, tell us down in the comments, what did you take away from this interview? What things are you going to apply to your own life? And more importantly, do them now. Don't just write about them. Remember, we talked about writing a vision and making it plain. Go take some actionable steps towards realizing those things, right? This isn't just a goosebump conversation because we're bored and we have nothing else to do.
Right.
I really want to be able to see what you do with the information that you were given from Wasi today. Take care. Y'all have a great day. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yes.
Peace.